Once again, so many ponies are crying over Microsoft acquiring studios, but this time it's some random, apparently previous famous comedian who very strangely decided to make a thread of tweets and a video in said thread, essentially having a mental breakdown over Microsoft potentially buying Activision. It is very clear when watching the video that the guy quite literally has zero idea what he's talking about, which would make a lot of sense considering the fact that this guy is, from what I can tell, just a washed up comedian who fell off hard into irrelevancy, but keeps on desperately trying to crawl his way back to relevancy. I did consider for a few minutes that because he's a comedian, the initial video could be a joke, but he very quickly added a multitude of tweets defending his absolutely idiotic take that we will obviously be taking a look at after his TikTok that he posted to Twitter. So without further delay, let's get into this idiocy. I made a short video on why I believe the Microsoft/Activision purchase is a lot more worrying than many seem to think. TLDW, Microsoft can use their massive cash advantage to indefinitely sell games at a loss via Game Pass, undercutting and monopolizing the industry Amazon style.
So I've been thinking a lot about how Microsoft just bought Activision, one of the world's largest video game publishers.
You know, if you have been supposedly thinking about this for a while, I'm not gonna lie, that's just sad. Especially when you take into account just how blatantly biased and misinformed you are.
And I think that news is a lot more frightening than most people realize. Like, I see people worrying, oh, what if they make Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive? But that's not the issue. The issue is that Microsoft can use Activision to undercut the rest of the entire video game industry and build a monopoly.
No, they can't. They cannot create a monopoly ever. It is virtually impossible for the industry to become a monopoly. There are simply too many independent studios in and of itself. But not only that, there's already companies like Tencent, who you unsurprisingly completely ignore in this video, who own a major number of developers in comparison to even Microsoft. I mean, this comparison chart showing you how many studios some of the biggest companies in gaming own says it all. Single-handedly, Microsoft is nowhere near a monopoly, and them buying Activision does not even come close to pushing them towards one. Even with owning them, they will still be in third place when it comes to revenue. Believe it or not, but Activision is not the gaming industry. They are merely a single publisher.
See, most publishers sell their games for $60 or $70, which they have to do because the games cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make and years of effort. But Microsoft has recently disrupted that strategy by introducing a service called Game Pass.
And a very interesting as well as insanely obvious fact, one of which you seem to ignore entirely, is that Game Pass actually increases sales for games. It does not decrease them like this guy is attempting to claim later on. Multiple indie developers have come out and talked about how much Game Pass has helped their games succeed financially, whether that be through just the people playing it using Game Pass or through the increase of sales the service subsequently produces. Game Pass is used by a shit ton of people as a means to try games before buying them for cheap, and even without those people existing, it also generates extra revenue for developers whilst not attempting to replace digital sales. After all, you can buy games through Game Pass. It is in no way, shape or form trying to replace digital sales like this dumbass is claiming. All this is achieved while saving consumers money. It's a literal win-win for everyone. So much so, Sony has been putting their games on the service,
where you can get hundreds of games for just $9.99 a month. And now they're buying up game publishers so they can put their games on the service. Microsoft has bought so many game studios that they now own Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake, Halo, Call of Duty, Elder Scrolls Fallout, Diablo, Hearthstone, Overwatch, StarCraft, Warcraft, World of Warcraft, Psychonauts, Guitar Hero, Dishonored, Minecraft, Gears of War, Tony Hawk, and Zork. Remember Zork?
If only a lot of IPs makes you a monopoly in your logic, then does that make EA a monopoly? Because they own a hell of a lot of IPs as well. See how fucking stupid this line of thought and this logic is? Owning a lot of IPs doesn't make you a monopoly. This is why your comedy career probably fell off. You seem to be a complete moron. Don't talk about subjects where you evidently have no idea what you are talking about. In your own logic, Sony could also be called a monopoly due to the amount of IPs they own. Literally any AAA developer/publisher could be called a monopoly, using your insanely moronic logic.
So it doesn't matter if Call of Duty is also available on PlayStation, if you can get it for $9.99 instead of $70 and get hundreds of other games too, that's what you're gonna do. The deal is just too good to pass up.
Okay, and? How is that a bad thing? I save a ton of money by not having to dish out ridiculous amounts of money for games like the bullshit publishers are successfully trying to pull at the moment in claiming they need to charge $70 for games. They fucking don't. They just want to make more money, which no one should be surprised by. They are businesses after all. Sony could easily make their own version of Game Pass, and they currently do have a version of Game Pass called PS Now. The only reason it hasn't taken off is due to the back catalogue of games mainly being cloud only, and because Game Pass is simply superior in every way. Plus, Sony does almost no marketing for PS Now in the first place. I do wonder if this guy will keep that same energy once PlayStation updates PS Now and PS Plus into PlayStation Spartacus.
Now I can hear what you're going to say next. You're saying Sony and Nintendo just need to make their own Game Pass competitors and make their own games, $9.99 a month. Here's the problem. I don't think they can do that. I think Microsoft is taking a massive loss on Game Pass, and they're able to do that because they are literally 10 times bigger than Sony and Nintendo combined.
Let's just do some basic mathematics here. The most recent numbers we have for Game Pass is that it's at 25 million subscribers. Now let's assume every single person using the service is only subscribed to the base tier, that's $10. Microsoft is looking at $250 million a month single-handedly from Game Pass. It is highly possible that Microsoft is turning a small profit with the service, and if they aren't, it's more than likely a few million subscribers out from doing so, which the service will probably gain by the end of the year or at the latest next year. Do you really think that Sony can't recreate that same success on a platform with a larger user base? You've got to be incredibly delusional to think otherwise. Sony made $25 billion in profits last year. They could 100% eat the supposed losses Microsoft is facing with Game Pass. They are not this little guy that needs our help to survive like you are stupidly claiming. But either way, they have been doing what Game Pass has been doing for years with PS Now. The only problem is that they haven't supported it enough or advertised it nearly enough, and Nintendo are not direct competitors with either Sony or Microsoft. It shows how little he understands about the industry when he talks as if Nintendo competes with those two companies. They do not. Nintendo has been doing its own thing for years. I mean, for fuck's sake, this guy doesn't even understand that Microsoft Gaming is a division of Microsoft. They don't automatically have access to all the funds of Microsoft, and they do not have unlimited funds. If Xbox is turning a loss every year, Microsoft will eventually shut it down. They were literally close to doing it before Phil Spencer took over.
Nintendo makes video games and playing cards. Sony makes video games and headphones. Microsoft makes video games, the operating system that every computer in the world runs on, and the web services that every website in the world run on. They are one of the biggest companies in the world.
Wait, what the fuck? Does this guy unironically not know that Sony essentially controls the music industry, makes TVs, makes mobile phones, is one of the biggest companies in films and TV industry, plus they also manufacture cameras for phones among loads of other things. Sony's not this little baby company that needs to be babied like this guy weirdly thinks. Also, Sony is quite literally one of Microsoft's biggest customers in gaming right now. Xbox have zero interest in killing off PlayStation because they literally make money from the platform and the platform's maker. Just look at how Microsoft runs PS Now servers for Sony.
And that means that they can use their massive cash reserves to subsidize their video game service forever. It's the Amazon strategy. They can take a loss on every single video game they sell through Game Pass forever until they have wiped out the competition, and Sony and Nintendo cannot do shit about it.
But they can. They quite literally can do something about it. Offer their own Game Pass competitor. Something Sony has been doing for years. They just haven't pushed it as much as Microsoft and let PS Now essentially become abandonware, especially on PC. However, if the rumors are true, that could change very soon if Sony creates PlayStation Spartacus. Either way, Microsoft isn't interested in killing Nintendo or Sony. All of the higher-ups for those major companies, minus probably Nintendo, talk on their regular, and Sony plus Nintendo have good relations with Microsoft. It would serve them almost no benefit to kill off PlayStation and definitely zero benefit to killing off Nintendo. They aren't really a competitor in the first place. One thing Sony could do is literally just allow Game Pass on PlayStation and take a cut from the subscriptions sold on their platform, similar to what they more than likely do with EA Play.
Actually, I should say I think Nintendo will be fine, because Nintendo has Mario and Zelda, and everyone loves Mario and Zelda, but I think Sony is fucked.
Well, yeah, because you have no idea what you are talking about.
Like, Sony can't afford to make the new God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn game just $10. They need those games to be $70 for them to make a profit that year.
Once again, that's completely untrue. God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West could easily turn a profit and be $60. Also, why is this guy acting like us saving money through services like Game Pass is a bad thing? Like, why the hell would you want to be scammed with these overpriced $70 games instead of the alternative where you pay a small fee a month in order to gain access to hundreds of games? It makes zero sense.
Whereas Microsoft is able to lose money indefinitely, so indefinitely that they can sell the damn console and Game Pass for just $25 a month.
I love how this absolutely ill-informed, washed-up comedian is so insanely unknowledgeable when it comes to the industry that he doesn't know Xbox and Sony do not make profit from console sales. They take a loss on every single sale of a console, and then make that loss back through subscription services and digital game sales. And if you actually look into that finance option, it works out just about the same as buying it outright over a longer period of time. They're just taking in that cash via a slower alternative so that they can get more customers, something that Sony could easily do themselves as well, with the same with Nintendo. Microsoft is not trying to make the industry 100% subscription based. That serves them no benefit. They are, however, trying to offer both, and it's working incredibly well because it's benefiting literally everyone. But either way, why is this guy acting like Microsoft letting you finance the console for $25 a month as a bad thing? That is nothing but a good thing. Not everyone has the money to spend $300 to $500 on a console up front. Giving them finance options is a great thing for everyone, not a bad thing like he's delusionally arguing.
Now that's an amazing deal, but it's one of those deals that we might later say, ooh, that deal was a little bit too good to be true, because it could mean that Microsoft wipes out all the competition in the video game space and then is able to jack the prices up on us and also make games that are a lot worse.
Ah yes, because Microsoft are suddenly going to buy up the major companies in the industry like the Embracer Group and Tencent, along with Sony and Nintendo. Also, they'd have to literally absorb every AAA publisher, something that is virtually impossible, and Game Pass isn't dropping the quality of games itself in the slightest. Just look at Returnal, that shit was beyond a joke for $70. So was COD Vanguard. I'm seeing a pattern here. $70 price tags don't automatically make games of higher quality, like this guy weirdly believes. In fact, they've usually just pointed to a developer slash publisher that's been incredibly greedy and one who makes terrible games. I've yet to see a $70 game actually be good whilst being worth that $70 price tag. Most of them have either been complete trash or simply entirely overpriced.
And let's not forget that all this consolidation naturally is going to lead to layoffs and worse conditions for workers.
I'm not even going to ask if this guy is stupid. I think we all know the answer at this point. Game Pass isn't going to lead to fucking layoffs, dumbass. It literally can't. Who the fuck do you think are going to create the content for the service other than the developers they employ? Do you genuinely think that Microsoft is going to develop real life magic and create them from thin air? I mean, at this point, I honestly wouldn't be surprised.
Microsoft isn't trying to be the Netflix of games, they're trying to be the Amazon of games. They want to use their massive cash advantage to undercut and dominate the entire game industry. That is bad for video game makers and video game players, and as someone who loves video games, I'm worried.
Wait until this guy finds out about Sony's entire strategy last generation and the strategy Sony used when entering the gaming market. Microsoft has been undercutting PlayStation for years with Game Pass, while Sony has been charging $70 for their games, and yet they're still doing more than fine. They're not seeing a decrease in growth, in fact they're seeing more growth over time, and they're still number one in the industry, which is unlikely to change anytime soon even with Game Pass in existence. Sony does have a subscription service, but it's primarily for legacy games. Per Jason Schreier's newsletter today, they won't be putting their big new games on the service because they simply can't afford to. My man has got some serious reading comprehension issues. That isn't even close to what Jason said. What he did say was that the company's making too much money from selling games at $70 a pop to consider selling them for less through a service. And for one, he's talking about an unreleased service. Meanwhile, you've just said Sony does have a subscription service, which if you weren't responding to that particular article would have been a correct statement. Not only that, he specifically said they don't plan on immediately putting their games day and date onto the potential service. Not that they won't. Please learn to read properly. I mean, for fuck's sake, we saw Spider-Man PS4 and The Last of Us along with so many other PlayStation exclusives on PS Now and PS Plus. And before people reply Sony just bought Bungie, Bungie was sold for 1/20th of the price Microsoft bought Activision for, and Bungie clearly makes, checks notes, one game. There's no comparison. You know, it's almost like Bungie isn't equivalent to a publisher that owns tons of IPs. No shit, Bungie was sold for 1/20th of what Activision was. Activision is fucking worth more. If Sony bought Bungie for anything more, they'd be scamming themselves. If there was a way to dismantle your own argument, this was a brilliant way to do it. Sony's doing the same stuff as Microsoft. The only difference is they're looking at smaller studios to do it with. Microsoft is only the third largest game company by revenue. It's literally a talking point Microsoft is spreading to try to evade regulation. Sony's market cap is $146.2 billion. Microsoft's is $2.38 trillion. Microsoft is 16 times larger than Sony. Their cash on hand exceeds Sony's entire value. That doesn't even disprove the opposition's argument. In fact, you literally just once again disproved all of your arguments for me. Why the fuck did I even bother responding to that shitty TikTok? Microsoft, even after buying Activision, will still be in third place, with Sony in first place. They are nowhere near to being a monopoly like you're stupidly keeping on claiming. Also, Microsoft isn't quote-unquote evading regulations. They haven't done anything against the law, and have no need to evade regulations in this situation. Now we've finally taken a look at that shit show of a thread and the video, which means we have finally come to the end of my video, because frankly my will to live is almost non-existent at this point. So with all that being said, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers love to beg you to do, aka check out my Discord server, follow me on Twitter, as well as like, comment and subscribe, so that I'll see you all in the next video.